So you can do some really serious scraping with this. Hey guys, Brad here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a tool that I use all the time, and I really didn't know about it until maybe 5 or so years ago. I always had one, but I just really didn't know the amount of uses this thing could provide for me. And my tile guy put me on to the painter's tool. This thing is so handy, and I'm going to run through some of the options and things that you can do with this that you might not have thought about, and why you should stick one of these in your tool bag. Before I get to it, make sure you subscribe, hit that notify bell, give us a thumbs up if you like the video, because it really does help out our channel. All right, so this one is by Richard, which is pretty common brand that we see at Home Depot and all the paint stores. They've sort of elaborated on this tool on a lot of other brands. DeWalt makes one as well. And sometimes you can get them with a nail puller in the center. I've seen them with the like a hex sort of puller in here for bolts and nuts and all that kind of stuff. And then on the top, they're always changing this out. So let's take a look at, I guess, ultimately what this was initially intended for, and that's the painter's tool. So this tool allows you to scrape on the front here. Okay, so you can do some really serious scraping with this, and sometimes I'll put a grinder to some of mine to sharpen them up, to really make them nice and sharp. This right here is ultimately for cleaning your rollers. So when they're wet, you know, full of paint, all loaded up, when you want to clean them, you can just scrape out that paint. That really helps with, you know, getting these clean, so you can prolong the use of your rollers. And then once you've washed them, again, you can scrape out all the water. And this really does help sort of save money and keep everything nice, tidy, and clean. So that's number one. Number two would be opening a paint can. On the front here, we've got a nice flat edge. It's not sharp. Okay, and this steel is pretty tight. It's not going to bend too much. And you can just jam this in here, and you can open up the paint can nice and easy. You can see how easy I'm doing this. Very little effort. Now, to close the paint can, a lot of them have a square butt on the end now. And this is great for closing paint cans. So you can just pound it down like this. Okay, you don't need a hammer, because normally I would use a hammer. But you can also use this for striking things. If you're doing, say, some demolition, you can use this to smack things if you need. Or if you're doing drywalling, a lot of times I'll carry this in my back pocket for two reasons. Number one, you can always, sometimes when you get butt joints, you want to take the butt end of a scraper or a trowel, and you just want to run down those butt joints to kind of push that paper in, so when you apply your mud, you get a nice joint. So this is really good for that. You can just kind of scrape down, push it all in. If you've pulled a screw in drywall and the paper kind of pulls out, you can use this to kind of push that paper back in. So that's really handy to have. But then this particular model has a bit driver on the end. So a little bit fancy, not all of them have this. And you can actually change the bits out on this. It came with a Phillips, because, you know, I'm guessing that they are thinking you're using this for drywalling. But you could put in a regular bit. This is a Robertson. And so you can get a little bit more extension on it. So if you keep bits in your bib or something like that, or on you, then it's very convenient to kind of combo that with this tool. The only downside to this tool is this is as far as this will open up. I preferred if this would turn and shoot out, so it was parallel with the tool itself. But, you know, this is good enough. That'll work. So handy, really like it. Now we've got a little pointed edge here. It's pretty sharp, and you can sharpen this to make it really sharp if you wanted to. And this I use a lot of the times for scraping. You know, you can get in these nice little corners here, like on this wood, and you can just scrape things out, pick things out if you need, right? You can just get in there, pick out some wood, pick out some glazing, whatever you need to do, this thing really helps. Now you can use this for window glazing as well. I use this a lot when I'm doing finishing, if I'm installing baseboard, and sometimes you get a little bow in the wall and you don't want your baseboard to kind of follow that bow. So you just take this, put it in behind your baseboard before you shoot, and just kind of keep that board from sucking into the wall. And so you shoot your nail and this will kind of hold it out, and then you can dap that top edge. And that's an extreme situation, you know, when the walls are all in and out and the framing's bad or whatever. Or sometimes if you're coming around a corner and you've got hardwood floors that are a little bit weird, maybe you've got carpet or something, and you need to be able to kind of shim that up. You can get underneath the baseboard. You can just kind of prop it up a little bit. So super handy to kind of act as a little bit of a shim, a wedge, all that kind of stuff. Now, another thing that's totally not related to painting or finishing is HVAC. You can use this point right here to cut tin. So a lot of the times if you're into HVAC, you know, some of the old guys, they'll use a bar or screwdriver. You can use a painter's tool to pierce that plenum to make your holes. And you just take a hammer, essentially. If you've never done this before, I don't have any HVAC here, but essentially what you do is you kind of hold the tool on a bit of an angle. You can pound this side in. It'll go into your plenum, like your 12 by, and then you can kind of work this around to cut the metal so that you can put in your adapter and go from there. I rarely use it for that, but you can use it for that application if you want. You don't have to use a bar. You don't have to go buy cutters or with snips if you need or anything like that. You can just smash it out with this. I might get some feedback from that comment. You know, I'm not an HVAC guy, but some HVAC guys have sort of taught me that little trick, and it does work. Okay, what else do we got on this? Besides scraping and all that, with tile work, and that's where I sort of picked up some of these tricks with this, is my tile setter uses this all the time. And it's because you can get under the tile really easily, pop it up if you need to add more thin set. You can use this to scrape out grout thin set if you're, you know, if you had a little whoops and you've got some thin set coming up in between your joints. You can use this to kind of scrape out in between the tiles. Before you put in your levelers, you can kind of clean up beside the tile before you put your levelers in. So there's so many different, you know, ideas and ways to use these tools. I really feel like this is sort of an invaluable tool that everyone should have in their pack. They're super cheap. They're like, you can find them as low as $5 or $10 sometimes. And it obviously depends on the quality and the brand and how many gizmos they've put on these things. But ultimately, if you have one, you'll find yourself reaching for it more and more because they are quite handy. I do wish this had a nail puller on this particular model. It would have been nice. I do have another one that has a nail puller in it, and I don't know, it's buried somewhere in one of my kits, but you know, they are very handy to have, especially when you're finishing. If you've got a brad nail that you want to pop out, let's say you're pulling baseboard or something, you know, sometimes they're really handy that way. All right, guys, leave some comments down below. I want to hear from you, and let me know what brand you're using. Do you like these? Do you have any other tips and tricks for them that I haven't mentioned? Because I know there's a lot. We'll leave some links down below for you in Amazon if we can find some. But yeah, until next time, keep on crushing it. We'll catch you later.